I never thought divorce would make my apartment feel this quiet, not peaceful, just empty. Some nights, I would turn on the TV only to hear another voice in the room. Other nights, I sat by the kitchen window with cold coffee in my hands, staring at the streetlights outside. I'm Emily. I'm 36 years old. And 3 months ago, my marriage ended after 11 years. People kept telling me the same thing. You're strong. You'll move on. You deserve better. But nobody talked about the strange loneliness that comes after love disappears. The silence was the hardest part, especially because my ex-husband, Daniel, had once been my whole world. At least, I thought he was. The divorce itself was calm. No screaming, no cheating scandal. No dramatic courtroom fight, just two tired people who stopped understanding each other. Sometimes that hurts even more. The worst moment came on a rainy Tuesday morning. I opened my closet and found one of his old hoodies still hanging there. I stood, frozen, for almost a minute. Then I sat on the floor and cried harder than I had during the actual divorce papers. That was the day my best friend Ryan showed up unexpectedly. Ryan and I had known each other since college. He was the kind of man who always remembered small things, my favorite coffee order, the songs I played when I was stressed, the fact that thunderstorms made me anxious. He had been there through almost every important moment in my life, even my wedding. Especially my wedding. Back then, I never noticed the strange look in his eyes when Daniel kissed me at the altar. But lately, I had started remembering it differently. Ryan knocked softly before walking into my apartment with grocery bags in both hands. I brought food, he said. I laughed weakly. You always bring food because you forget to eat when you're sad? That's not true. He raised one eyebrow. I looked away. Okay, maybe a little. That made him smile for the first time all day. Ryan had this calm energy about him. Not loud, not flashy, just safe. And after months of emotional exhaustion, safe felt dangerous in its own way. We spent the evening making pasta together in my tiny kitchen. For the first time in weeks, I laughed without forcing it. At one point, I accidentally dropped Parmesan cheese all over the floor. Ryan looked down and sighed dramatically. Well, he said, the cheese died doing what it loved. I laughed so hard I almost cried again. But this time, the tears felt lighter. Later that night, we sat on the balcony with warm coffee cups in our hands. The city lights shimmered below us. Ryan leaned back in his chair. You know something? What? You don't have to pretend around me. I swallowed slowly, because he was right. Around everyone else, I acted fine. I smiled. I nodded. I said healing takes time. But with Ryan, I was just tired. I wasted 11 years. I whispered. No, he said immediately. You lived 11 years. That sounds nicer than the truth. It is the truth. I looked down at my coffee. Steam curled into the cold night air. I don't even know who I am anymore, I admitted. Ryan stayed quiet for a second. Then he said softly, I think you're finally becoming yourself again. Something about those words hit me harder than I expected, because deep down I knew he might be right. Before I met Daniel, I used to paint, travel, dance in my kitchen at midnight. Somewhere along the way, I became smaller, not because Daniel forced me to, but because relationships can slowly turn into routines, and routines can quietly erase parts of you. Ryan drove me to a bookstore the next weekend, then to a farmer's market on Sunday, then to a little jazz cafe downtown a few days later. Every time I told him he didn't have to keep checking on me, he ignored me completely. You're annoying, I told him once. You love me, he answered casually. The second those words left his mouth, the air changed, just slightly, but enough for both of us to notice. Ryan looked out the car window quickly. I stared straight ahead. Neither of us spoke for almost a full minute. Then he cleared his throat. So, anyway, the weather's nice. I laughed awkwardly. That's your recovery line? It's all I had. But later that night, lying alone in bed, I couldn't stop replaying those two words in my mind. You love me, not romantic, not serious, at least that's what I told myself. Still, Something felt different after that, and the scary part was, I didn't hate it. A few days later, Ryan came over to help fix my broken kitchen shelf. He was standing on a chair while I handed him screws from below. "You know," he said, "this shelf is holding on better than most marriages." I groaned. Too soon. Sorry. But I was laughing again. Then suddenly, the chair slipped slightly. Instinctively, I grabbed his arm. For 1 second, we froze. Really froze, my hand still holding him. His face only inches from mine, and for the first time in years, I felt something I wasn't ready for. Not sadness, not grief, something warmer, something terrifying. Ryan looked at me carefully, not like a friend, not anymore. Then quietly, almost nervously, he asked the question that changed everything. "Emily, have you ever wondered what would have happened if you had chosen me instead?" I forgot how to breathe for a second. The room suddenly felt smaller, quieter. Ryan looked nervous immediately after saying it, like he wanted to take the words back. But it was too late, because now the question was sitting between us. Heavy, real, impossible to ignore. I slowly let go of his arm. He stepped down from the chair carefully. "Emily," he said softly, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that." "No," I whispered. "It's okay." But my heart was racing so hard I could barely think straight. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. He paused. "I guess I've wondered that for a long time." I stared at him. A long time. He laughed quietly. "Yeah." The answer hit me harder than I expected. Because suddenly, little memories started connecting in my head. The way he always showed up when I needed help. The way he never forgot important dates. The way he looked at me sometimes when he thought I wasn't paying attention, and worst of all, the way being around him always felt easy, safe, real. I sat down slowly on the couch. Ryan stayed standing for a moment before finally sitting across from me. Neither of us spoke. Outside, I could hear distant traffic and soft rain hitting the windows. Finally, I looked at him. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Ryan smiled sadly. "Because you loved Daniel." The honesty in his voice hurt. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. "I would never try to ruin that for you," he continued. "And, honestly, I thought those feelings would disappear someday." "Did they?" I asked quietly. He looked directly at me then, and for the first time in years, I felt completely seen. "No," he admitted. My chest tightened. Part of me wanted to panic, another part wanted to cry, but another part, the quietest part, felt strangely warm. I looked down at my hands. "I don't know what I'm supposed to say. You don't have to say anything. But I want to." Ryan stayed silent. I took a deep breath. "When I married Daniel," I said slowly, "I thought love was supposed to feel exciting all the time." Ryan listened carefully. "I thought big moments meant big love. Fancy dates. Huge surprises. Passion." "And now?" he asked. I looked around my apartment, at the half-fixed shelf, at the coffee mug still on the counter, at the man who stayed through my worst days without asking for anything back. Now I think love might be quieter than that. Ryan's eyes softened. For a second, nobody moved. Then my phone suddenly buzzed loudly on the table. Both of us jumped a little. I grabbed it quickly. My stomach dropped when I saw the name. Daniel. Ryan looked away immediately. "You should answer," he said. Hesitated before picking up. "Hello?" Daniel sounded tired. "Hey, Emily." Hearing his voice after weeks of silence felt strange, like hearing a song I used to love but no longer understood. "How are you?" he asked. "I'm okay." There was a pause. Then he sighed softly. "I made a mistake." I closed my eyes. In another version of my life, those words would have shattered me. I would have cried, begged, hoped. But now, I just felt tired. "I've been thinking about us nonstop," Daniel continued. "Maybe we gave up too fast." I looked toward Ryan. He wasn't watching me. He was quietly tightening a screw into the shelf, like he was trying to disappear from the conversation completely. And suddenly, I understood something important. Love should never make someone feel invisible, but Ryan never made me feel invisible, not once. Daniel kept talking. "We could try again," he said carefully, "maybe counseling this time." I swallowed hard. This was the moment I once prayed for, the moment I imagined during sleepless nights after the divorce. But life had changed quietly while I was grieving, and somehow, so had I. "Daniel," I said gently, "I don't think we belong together anymore." The silence on the phone felt endless. Then he whispered, "Is there someone else?" I looked at Ryan again. He finally looked back at me. And in that moment, something inside me became clear. "No," I answered honestly. "There's finally me." After the call ended, my hands shook slightly. Ryan walked over carefully. "You okay?" I nodded slowly, then suddenly laughed through tears. "I can't believe I just said that." Ryan smiled. It was a good answer. For the first time in months, I felt lighter, not because another man had feelings for me, but because I finally understood my own worth again. Ryan sat beside me quietly, not pushing, not rushing, just there, like always. "You know," I said softly, "timing is kind of cruel." "How so?" I smiled weakly, because maybe if you had asked me that question years ago, I would have run away from it. And now, I looked at him carefully. Now felt different. Not perfect. Not magical. Just honest. I think I'm finally ready to hear it. Ryan's expression softened completely. Then he reached for my hand slowly, giving me enough time to pull away if I wanted to. But I didn't. Outside, the rain kept falling softly against the windows, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel lonely listening to it. A few months later, I started painting again. Ryan helped me turn my spare room into a small art studio. We took things slowly. No dramatic declarations, no perfect movie moments, just two people learning each other honestly. One night, while hanging one of my paintings on the wall, Ryan smiled at me and said, "You know what's funny?" "What?" "You spent years thinking your life was ending." I tilted my head. "And?" He smiled softly. "But maybe it was finally beginning." And honestly, I think he was right.